Hello, everyone. I'm Gabriela Dorliac, Executive Director at ICC Brazil, and I'm delighted to present another episode of Copcasts, a web series in partnership with ICC UK, Baker McKenzie, and Trent Rossi Watanabe. For today's discussion, I'm with Marcos Matias, who is President at Schneider Electric in Brazil, and also co-chair of our CEO Advisory Board, to talk about energy efficiency and climate action. Marcos, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Marcos, Schneider Electric has impressive numbers. Over 71% of its revenues are related to sustainable products and services, and it really aims to reach, from what we've seen, 80% by 2025. What is the role of energy efficiency in this process, and how can companies benefit from energy efficiency to engage in this journey towards sustainability?
Thank you very much, Gabriela, for this question. It's an important question, but first of all, I would like to emphasize that this history about Schneider and the sustainability environment, the sustainability historical, it starts in 15 years ago. And today, we need to understand that we generate, distribute, and consume energy accounts for 80% of the world emissions. So climate change is essentially an energy dilemma. There is an equal opportunity to save emissions on both sides. We talk about the demand side of energy and the supply side. We firmly believe that demand side abatement has a major role to play in reduction emissions. Demand side measures such as optimization of energy usage through the introduction of digital technologies account of circa 50% of the global abatement opportunity. Despite this, most studies and policies focus predominantly on supply side measures, such as sourcing more energy from renewables. As a global specialist in the digital transformation of energy management and automation, the solutions we bring to the market and to our customers are directly linked to activities to mitigate, adapt, and improve humanity resilience to the climate change. This contribution is measured as impact revenues, which represent 71%, as you said, of our total revenues in 2021. So Schneider impact revenues, I can say that split in 4 categories. Number 1, energy efficiency. Number 2, smart grid architectures, very important on this environment. Number 3, to produce more green premium programs, green premium products in our green premium program. And 4, services that bring benefit for circularity. In summary here, all these products, services, and solutions are centered on what we call electricity 4.0, a combination of electrification and digitization, Gabriela.
Marcos, and I think you brought a very important point where we can't look at climate change without looking at energy consumption, and how we evolve with what we're doing. I know that that this year ICC Brazil launched the 2nd edition of a study about carbon credit market, which Schneider supported, and it really looks at opportunities for Brazil in the carbon market. We know that, and the report re-emphasizes this, that Brazil has the potential to answer for close to 50% of global demand in the voluntary market and up to 28% of the global demand in the regulated market within the scope of the UN. So if we take Schneider as an example, the company's goal is to help its clients save or avoid 800 million tons of CO2 emissions and have carbon neutral operations by 2025, achieving net zero ready operations by 2030, which is very close. So how can we think about energy efficiency contributing to our nationally determined contribution target to reduce net greenhouse gas emissions? And also, what is the importance of transition mechanisms in this decarbonization process?
Amazing question, Gabriela. Number one, I think we must to have ambition. It's so important to have this ambition. And Schneider Electric is reaching the targets much earlier, if you can see the Paris Agreement that we had. So we cannot reach net zero without adoption ambitions in energy efficiency measures. It should be the first step in a government's or organization's journeys to decarbonization. Energy optimization reduces costs and emissions while increasing productivity and environment quality in the workplace. Globally speaking, energy efficiency can achieve more than 40% of the energy-related emissions cuts needed to reach climate goals by 2040. In terms of contribution energy efficiency could have to Brazil's NEDC, we need to look at where we stand now. As pointed out by a recent study published by Instituto Clima e Sociedade, Brazil is the only country among emerging economies whose energy consumption has grown in the last 20 years at rates above economic production, which indicates that it has been demanding more energy to produce the same amount of wealth as other countries, and has shown low efficiency and low productivity. It also stands in 12th place in the rank of countries that have advanced the most inefficient policy, behind such countries as Mexico, Indonesia, India, China. So, ABESCO, Brazilian Association of Energy Conservation Companies, also published an emblematic study according to which energy waste in Brazil amounts to 50 terawatt-hour per year. So let me say that starting from this baseline, and considering that Brazil has an economy-wide national determined contribution that considers the entire economy, we have a vast field of opportunities to explore in energy efficiency, in infrastructure, in industry, in buildings, in homes, as well as the possibility of carrying out energy efficiency bids to meet the growth in energy demand. Eliminating these energy efficiency gaps should be one of the top priorities policy initiatives in Brazil and EDC, because it represents a huge abatement opportunity that the country can already act on. Energy efficiency also represents a huge opportunity to generate jobs, as we are still recovering from the impacts of the COVID pandemic, thanks to the fact that it can be applied in a decentralized way at a large scale. Transition mechanism, another comment that you provide in your question, transition mechanisms play an important role in the road to a net zero economy because there are other sectors in the economy that will be much harder to decarbonize, like oil, gas, mining, and for example, a full net zero economy will demand technologies that don't yet exist or that are not widely applicable at scale, like green hydrogen. So while we develop these technologies and act on sectors that are relatively easy to decarbonize with measures like energy efficiency, we need mechanisms like carbon markets to compensate for the emissions of the sector that are hard to decarbonize.
These are great points, Marcos, and I think that the numbers that you brought are really impressive in terms of what we have been doing as a country, how much is still left to do. And I think one key issue that you raised that we sometimes forget is that when we talk about becoming more sustainable, et cetera, we think about implementing new things, but not looking at the things that we already do and make them more efficient with less loss during the processes. So I think this is an important reminder that sometimes we have to look at what we already do and improve that, and then start looking at other types of investments. You talked a little bit about, numbers where Brazil is not doing so well, but Brazil has certainly good comparative advantages within our resources, our matrix. So how do we take advantage of the comparative advantages that we have? How do we make them actually competitive? And what role could and does the public sector need to play to work together with the private sector to promote energy efficiency, to take advantage of our country's potential in a more integrated manner?
Brazil, Gabriela, has an important role in this sector. I think that is one of the most important, because Brazil has extremely clean energy mix. Once we start implementing energy efficiency more effectively, we will be working in two fronts to support the massive projects increase in electrification, ensuring that we are not wasting the renewable energy we are generating today, and allowing us to expand our infrastructure in the most cost-effective and intelligent way. So increasing our energy efficiency and the proportion of renewable energy in our power matrix will also help our commodities have a better competitive advantage associated to their low carbon footprint. Yet to take advantage of our country's unique potential, we need the public sector implement and enforce public policies that help speed the adoption of energy efficiency in the private sector. It's the only demand is in this area of private. How can I accelerate this? Development of public policies at the municipal, states, and federal levels will be fundamental for this. Additionally, our country faces a great gap in its knowledge of methodologies and technologies that contribute to energy efficiency, which is combined with a lack of qualified professionals for a large-scale development of energy diagnosis. The proposals and executions of the projects and subsequent energy management, which means we also need a huge investment in education. Education is a big fundamental to accelerate the energy efficiency process too, Gabriela.
Marcos, we know that mitigation is going to be, or is one of the main topics to be negotiated at the COP, which is currently underway in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. Energy efficiency is one of the fundamental pillars to tackle climate change, as we talked about. In your perspective, what are the current challenges and opportunities within this broader context?
I believe that the great opportunity here is that affordable technology already exists to tackle the global energy efficiency deficit and, as previously stated, measure to reduce energy demand such as optimization energy usage through the introduction of digital technology. Account of 50% of the global emissions abatement opportunity. To really realize this benefit, we need policymakers to adopt policies that, let me emphasize here, CAPEX, disrupt the inertia of the current system. Everything that is built new should now be built with the 2050 net zero end game in mind. The second is retrofit. Massive efforts are required to modernize the existing stock of assets. I talk about buildings, mobility, industrial facilities, machines at a much faster rate than natural evolution. In fact, as 100% of the stock needed to be refurbished by 2050. The third is more demand. We are looking that we are having more demand about electricity. Fundamental effort is required to expand and strengthen the current power system infrastructure, in particular the grid. This is a critical point for new economies which will at large define the global trajectory toward zero emissions post-2030. This infrastructure also needs to consider the paradigm of a more distributed energy landscape, where the grid acts as a platform on which all other transformations build up. Finally, this transformation of the energy infrastructure must go along with fundamental redesign of energy markets, which are today built for a fossil fuels economy. And it's time to revert it.
I think, Marcos, that is a really important point that you highlighted. Whatever we do now, we need to do it differently. We have to think about a new structure, a new grid. As you said, we can't operate under the same system that we did. And I think that's a very, very important challenge that you leave here for the private sector and the public sector as well. Just to close our last question, this COP is being called an implementation COP. So last year there was a lot of finalizing negotiations, and now it's time to show what both governments and private sectors have actually done. How do you think private sector could contribute to these discussions? And what do you expect as outcomes for the conference?
As you said, implementation COP, I say that implementation and more collaboration. We can go in this direction alone. We can go together. So these global events like the COP27 are great opportunities for the private sector to reinforce its commitment to the global decarbonization. For example, every year, the number of companies committed to the setting science-based targets increases significantly. So this could also be an excellent occasion for companies to communicate on results and share best practices like supply chain engagement in their decarbonization efforts. This helps demonstrate existing pathways to a net zero future and that we are capable of adapting and can accelerate the adoption of best practices. An issue that is under the spotlight in this particular COP is that of all the countries that committed to the Paris Agreement, only a small amount are putting their plans into action. This is tricky, huh? And considering that all of their commitments already didn't meet 1.5 degrees warming scenario. This is very concerning. That's why the main expectation from this conference is that governments define ambitious climate governance with clear objectives and clear defined roles for each stakeholder in their NDCs to demonstrate that they will be effectively implemented. At Schneider Electric, as our CEO, Jean-Pascal Tricoire, says, we are neither pessimists nor optimists when it comes to climate change. We are activists. We know the paths that need to be taken to halve emission by 2030 and reach net zero 2050 by 2050. That is why we work hard to lead the way by what we do in our own company, but by support our ecosystem in its decarbonization journey. There is no space for lonely leaders in climate change. As I said, this is a challenge we must all tackle together.
I think that's a great way to end in terms of, it's not a question of being pessimist or optimist. You have to be an activist and really move the needle and get things done. And I think your other point of nobody's going to do this alone. So either we join forces, we create not a dialogue, but actual collaboration to push things forward. Or I think it was The Economist that already put on their front page, say goodbye to 1.5. And that is very disheartening as we're going into COP and we have all this energy, but to see that we're still falling quite short of what we need to do. So I think, everything you said makes a lot of sense, and we hope to bring this enthusiasm into the conversations at COP as well. Marcos, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you here, and we'll see you next year for webcast and COPcast as well.
Absolutely, Gabriela. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to ICC, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.